All right. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Really, really appreciate the support. And we're super excited today to walk through basically NFTs as much as we can cover in 20 minutes. So for some context, my name is Ben. This is Mai. Mai is the CEO of Curious Addies. I'm the CTO of Curious Addies. We made the first educational NFT project. And our real goal is to try to educate people as much as possible from the ground up about Web3 and NFTs. We've also launched the most comprehensive NFT course on Nas Academy. And we have a 30,000 word article, NFTs 101, that we're trying to essentially condense here as much as possible into 20 minutes. So without further ado, let's get started.
Cool. So last year was the year of NFTs. So you might have seen this like crazy news of people sold an NFT for $69 million. And CryptoPunks, just pixelated art, was sold for $24 million. And Bored Ape Yacht Club, which was just launched last spring, is already partnering Adidas, one of the largest shoe brands. And what is going on? And we also launched our Octopus JPEG NFT collection, and we made $1.7 million. So it's crazy, right? And why people are spending so much money for NFTs, and why people are so excited about NFTs. Is it just a bubble or scam? Or is it just that people are going crazy? We believe that NFTs are the future, and NFTs can make crypto go mainstream. So before NFTs, people who are into cryptos are like people who are interested in science, computer science, finance, and technologies, right? And NFTs are bringing more people who are interested in art, culture, music, media. So there's so much influx of people who never touched crypto, and those people are interested in now crypto and coming to this space. So this NFTs are the driving force of blockchain technology. So we are going to go deep into like why NFTs have values, but first let's get into what exactly is an NFT. So NFT stands for non-fungible token. So it's unique, non-interchangeable crypto asset. So what exactly does non-fungible mean? So fungible items are the things that can be perfectly interchangeable. For example, like money. So for example, if I have my one Bitcoin or Ether, and if you have one Ether, it's completely interchangeable, right? You don't get upset if you exchange because it has the same value. But most of the things in the world is actually non-fungible. So for example, if I try to exchange my dog to your dog, probably you'll be upset, or maybe I'll be upset, because those are two different things, right? It's not interchangeable. So non-fungible tokens are the tokens that are all unique. So for example, we launched this Octopus NFT project, and each one of them is a token, right? But all of them have different traits, and all of them have very different values. So all NFT tokens are very unique, different tokens. So how exactly do NFTs work? So there's a misconception that people think that images or videos or text on the internet is actually an NFT. But that's not true. It's actually a certificate of ownership that proves an ownership. So think of it as the title of the house. So if you just look at the house, you don't know who the owner is, right? You have to look at the title, and that title really proves the ownership, right? So it's the same thing, same concept. This token, the certificate, represents certain digital assets such as like image or video or text, and that can be owned by a certain owner, like wallet address. And the record of who owns this token, and that represents certain image or video or any digital asset, is all saved in a blockchain, and it can be viewed by anyone, and also permanent. And so that really made true digital ownership possible. So before NFTs, it was impossible for digital assets to have values, because who owns JPEG? Nobody knows, right? There's no way to prove an ownership. But after NFTs, who owns JPEG? You can just go into blockchain and see like who owns it. And also, not only that, you can see when it was created and who created this and when it was sold to different person. So it's all visible and it's all saved in blockchain. So true ownership of digital asset became possible for the first time in the history of internet.
All right, so now that we know a little bit about the technical background of what is an NFT, how is an NFT made, what exactly does it represent, let's talk about why NFTs have value. So this is pretty heady. We spent 2 hours in a 30,000 word article trying to explain this online. So if we don't cover everything here, read that to actually get into more detail. But to really understand why NFTs have value, we have to understand why does physical art have value? And we have to answer 2 questions there. One, why are some art pieces, like say the Mona Lisa, worth hundreds of millions of dollars? And 2, why are the original art pieces worth more than a replica that might look almost identical? And so let's go into that. Why is the Mona Lisa worth $800 million? You could say it's the best art piece ever made. And okay, sure, maybe the best art piece ever made is worth $800 million. Who knows? It's maybe the most famous art piece ever made. And maybe that also, it's a slightly nuanced thing that we'll talk about in a second. But maybe that also justifies an $800 million valuation. Maybe it's just because people are crazy. Maybe it's none of the above. To really answer this, we need to dive into the history behind the Mona Lisa. And if we say it's the best art piece ever made, well, there's something interesting. For about 400 years after the Mona Lisa was created in the 1500s, almost no one in the mainstream public knew about the Mona Lisa. No one knew about Da Vinci or anything about this piece. And it was only in 1911 when one very interesting kind of accident happened that the mainstream public started to know about the Mona Lisa, which is kind of weird if you would think that this is objectively the best art piece ever made, right? And so what happened in 1911? Well, Perugia, this Italian thief, stole the Mona Lisa from the Louvre. And overnight, this became a huge scandal. And so all the newspapers were reporting it, front page news. Everyone started to hear about the Mona Lisa, this huge scandal in the Louvre. And from that, that might have been just a blip on the radar by itself. But what happened next was people started making memes of the Mona Lisa. And so there was another famous artist who made this kind of vulgar parody, and that started spreading, and essentially was one of the first kind of memes, right? And so as that spread more other artists were like, oh, hey, actually this is kind of funny, right? We can make our own parodies. And today we're still doing this, and you can see here's the Corona Lisa, right? And so as that spread, the Mona Lisa started to gain this massive kind of cultural mindshare. And today you can go to anywhere in Asia, Europe, Africa, America, and ask anyone and they really know what the Mona Lisa is, right? And so does that really justify $800 million of value? Well, there's a interesting thought experiment. So the former art director of the Louvre estimates that 80% of the people who go to the Louvre go just to see the Mona Lisa. And there are 10 million people who go to the Louvre every year, $20 a person, that's $200 million, right? And 160 million of that is just to go see the Mona Lisa. So if you were to denigrate yourself enough to buy the Mona Lisa and kind of prostitute it out there as a cash flow asset, it's actually a pretty good deal, right? If you compare it to any kind of real estate property, the cap value on this thing is quite good. And so that's one way to kind of see that when something is famous, when something has cultural mindshare, there's inherent value that comes from that as opposed to some other piece that might be technically just as good as a masterpiece, but doesn't have that fame for whatever reason it doesn't have that fame. When you get that, it's worth it. And so now we can look at these internet memes, right? So there's Side-Eye Chloe that sold for $74,000. There's Disaster Girl sold for $473,000, right? And first you look at these and there's sticker shock. It's like, this is insane. This is a random video that someone uploaded onto YouTube, and now it's selling for 5 figures, 6 figures, right? But then you think about it, and it's like, how many people know this, right? Probably all of you here know Side-Eye Chloe, know Disaster Girl, and how many memes have been spread with that. And really, now you compare it to the Mona Lisa worth $800 million, right? And actually, this starts to seem like maybe possibly a steal for the cultural mindshare that these things have. And then the other question that we really have is, people say, you can just right-click save this, right? You can just duplicate this and you have the exact same thing. Well, why is it worth so much more to have this NFT versus just the JPEG that you've saved that's exactly identical, right? And really, we can go back to the Mona Lisa. Why is the original Mona Lisa worth $800 million, but a replica that you can't even tell the difference if you were to go into a museum and look at the two is worth just a fraction of the price? And there's an interesting thought experiment because there's an estimate that 20% of all the art in museums is actually fake. And these are things that experts have looked at, and they can't tell the difference. There's no chance that I could tell the difference if I walk into a museum. And chances are, statistically speaking, we've all walked into a museum and we've looked at a fake piece of art, and it's had the exact same emotional evocation, it's had the exact same value to us without us knowing that it was the fake thing, right? but there's no museum in the world that just has fake art, right? And chances are you wouldn't be as excited to go to a museum that's just filled with fake art, even if you don't know that it's fake. And so intrinsically we know in the real physical world that there's some je ne sais quoi about the original art piece that just has more value than some replica. And the same thing holds true in a digital world. There's no reason that these digital assets now, for the first time, that you can put a title behind their certificate and say you are the original owner of this art piece, this NFT, doesn't have more value than a copy. And so really, it's the ownership, the fact that you can say, I am the actual owner of this value piece here, a digital asset or a physical art piece, that gives you the value there. And so now let's talk a little bit about NFTs at the code level. And all NFTs almost today are on the Ethereum blockchain. There are a lot of other blockchains out there, Solana, Terra, Avalanche, and so forth, but the vast majority operate on Ethereum, the first smart contract protocol, and they use what's called an ERC 721 standard. And so why is this important? Why are standards so interesting? Well, ERC 721 is beautiful not because it's technically the best way that you could do all of these things, but rather it's just because everyone agrees to make their NFTs in the same way so they're all interchangeable and interoperable. And so it's like, think of batteries, right? Batteries are very useful because a AA battery, anyone can make a new one, and you can trust that it's going to fit in the receptacle for any item that uses AA batteries, or a light bulb. The fixtures all have standard sizes, so they just automatically work. Same thing with this. With a ERC 721 standard, you can create something like OpenSea, a marketplace where you can buy and sell NFTs. And OpenSea doesn't have to do any manual work when we come on and we say, hey, we would like to make a new NFT. Let's go make Curious Addies, these octopus JPEGs. We can put that out there, and automatically OpenSea knows, okay, I can let people buy and sell these without doing any manual work to know how their code works, because there's a set of certain promises that our NFT will work exactly the same way with these base functions as any other NFT that exists. And so if they want to find out who the owner of this NFT is, they just call the owner of function and they call in the token ID. Token ID 3000 is owned by Ben Yu, something like that. If you want to transfer it to someone, you call the safe transfer from function. All of those things work exactly the same across all NFTs that follow the standard, and that's what's really powerful about the ERC 721 standard.
So Ben just talked about OpenSea can really read all the information from blockchain and display all the different NFT collections. So what exactly is happening behind the scene? I'm going to walk you through step by step what's exactly happening. So left side, there's an OpenSea NFT marketplace, right? And first of all, OpenSea is going to request token URI, which is the location of the metadata. And I'm going to talk about metadata in the next slide, but basically, OpenSea is requesting token URI for certain token ID, in this case 49999, to the smart contract of certain collection. In this case, we are using the example of Curious Addies because it's our project. And the smart contract extends the ERC 721, which is a standard that Ben just talked about. So OpenSea requests token URI and get the URL of where metadata is stored. And once OpenSea gets that URL, it will access to that URL. It could be stored in IPFS, which is the centralized file storage, or it could be stored in the website. Whatever that is, OpenSea will request the metadata, and then it will get the metadata back. And it's basically just JSON format. It's an object. It's just a really simple object, which I'm going to show you after this. So because it's just an object, OpenSea can actually parse the metadata and derive the information that you need to display on the page to show an NFT. So what is metadata? Metadata defines the information about NFTs. So most importantly, it will store the information where the image is stored or where the video is stored, whatever the asset it's going to be. So it will have that information. And also you have the information like a name, description, those basic information. In this case, name is a little boring. It's number 1. But whatever the name is, it's going to be stored on metadata. And I'm going to talk a little bit about attributes. So attributes, most of the NFTs, the collection, have this thing called attributes, and these are used to determine the reality. So rarity is the concept that a lot of NFT collection use. So because all the NFTs are different, each NFT token has different set of traits. It could be different background, it could be different body color, it could be different items. And based on that information, the tools like Rarity Punks or Rarity Tools that calculates rarity score can scrape all the information that how many traits there are and how many of the NFTs have this trait, and then calculate how rare it is in the NFT. So I'm going to dive a little bit into code, but the purpose here is not like, I'm not trying to teach you everything about this. I just want to show you how easy it is so that anyone can start making smart contract for NFT. So it's a little small, but let me see. Okay. So as you can see, this is the most basic form of smart contract making an NFT collection. So as you can see, it's inheriting in ARC 721 by importing this standard from OpenZeppelin. And by doing so, this smart contract already have the set of base functions like token URI or owner of or set approval for all. So you don't have to add anything extra that. And if you want, and then one thing that you have to add is mint. So maybe you have heard of the word mint. It's basically like creating a token in the smart contract. And what it does, it's so simple. You just have kind of check functions. You have to check if the sale is active and if the max, if there's a still supply in the smart contract. And also you have to check if the value that's given passed is same as the price that's set in the smart contract. And once it go through this requirements, then all you need to do is just call mint function, which is also supplied by ERC 720 standard. So you can just call that with the parameter of message sender, which is the person or address who is minting, and also token ID. And at the end, you just increment the supply counter so that smart contract knows how many supplies there still is. So that's like really, really simple, simple function, mint function that I can show. But the good news is the all smart contract in the world is visible. For example, if you want to see Bored Ape Yacht Club smart contract, you can just go to Etherscan and see how it's written. And it's so easy to find because it's open source, you can learn from the smart contract, you can copy and paste, and it's really easy to learn from examples.
Yeah, okay, cool. We're not on the internet, but if you went to OpenSea, you typed in Bored Ape Yacht Club, and you actually looked at each token, you'd be able to actually see, and maybe we'll be able to get on here, and I'll show you that in a second. But real quick before, actually, it might work. Okay, perfect. So if you get in here, just to see any smart contract, you would type in something like Bored Ape Yacht Club, and maybe my internet is too slow. All right, we'll see if we can get that later. Anyway, good news is, even if you don't know how to program, you can still make your own smart contract now. And so this is a great site that just came out a few weeks ago. And these are completely free tools for anyone to create a smart contract, even if you have absolutely no idea how to program. And so you can see, you can go here, you can click Create a Contract, and you can just type in all the different parameters you want, the price, where the images are stored and whatnot. Click that, and then that will go ahead and generate a smart contract for you. Then you can actually create a minting UI, and that will just automatically interface with your smart contract and let anyone mint from it. You can even use the ARKit to create your own NFT artwork and metadata and programmatically generate thousands of unique images. And so with things like this, these tools are popping up. There are a lot of these things. You can just get started with no money, with no development background, any of that. And so it's a pretty exciting time to be in NFTs. But yeah, that really covers NFTs 101 in 20 minutes. So again, if this didn't answer all the questions you have, we run an educational project in the space. You're welcome to join our Discord at discord.gg/CATC. CuriousAddies.com is another way that you can get there. And we have a Q&A service in there where any question you have, real time, we can get it answered if you ask it using that service. We have a whole community of thousands of people who love answering questions. And if you want to learn more, you can read our article, NFTs 101. It's on Medium. Just Google that. You'll find it. Or you can take our NFT course at Nas Academy. So thank you so much for coming, and hope this was helpful.